Hello and welcome to Temple of Heat. We're going to build a custom arch window that's going to go in this rough opening here. Let's get started. Okay, here's the pattern that was selected from all the options, and that's what it's going to look like once the window's actually in the building. Okay, we're back in the shop after removing the cardboard template from the wall where it's going to be installed. And what I've done is I used a compass to mark out the first piece that we need to take off of this template. And that's this piece right here, which you can see is the cardboard template for the rough framing that's going to be installed on that wall. We're with that same piece that we need for the rough opening. This is going to be a framing member that's part of the wall. So it's curved. We're going to make it up from multiple laminations and glue it together in a form that we're using this piece of plywood to work on. And you can see here that this plywood is actually too short, but it's closest to the length that I need. So I'm going to go ahead and add another section of plywood on here so that way we can just use it for our mold, and then we'll take it apart and use it for something else probably. Never buy plywood to make parts or fixtures when you can just use stuff that you have on hand if it's at all possible. As we're making our mold, you can see it started here. These pieces are already installed. What it is a little buildup of 2 blocks, very simple. But the one thing is, you need it to be perfectly flush because that will affect twist and the curve. You don't want any twist, you want it to be an even flowing curve. So when you're drilling this block for the pilot, for the screw, you just don't press very hard. You kind of let it drive itself into the wood, and then when it goes through this first block into the second block that you're drilling into, if you press real hard, it's going to cause the 2 pieces to scoot and you won't have a flush joint. And then as you're breaking through the top piece, you just slow down on the pressure a little bit. That'll allow your pilot to poke through to the hole that you're screwing into so it stays flush. And then this gets installed along the line. Now in this little buildup here, the only thing you want to go on the line is just this face here that you're clamping to. So. Alright, here's the part dry fitted in the fixture. And there hasn't been any glue applied to the pieces yet because when you're trying to put it together, everything that you can imagine can go wrong. What ended up happening was I realized I didn't have enough clamps down at this end over here, and it was the part that I had to add on the end. I'll show it to you right there. I kind of had to double that up and then wedge another piece because the pressure was so much it was twisting the board that it's clamped to. So now I have to carefully unspring it because there's a lot of pressure in here. If you're doing this, be careful. These pieces will throw a clamp off and it'll hit you in the head if you're not paying attention. So always be aware of that, because you know you have energy stored up in there. It's just like a spring. Even though it's a stupid piece of wood, it will fling that clamp off of there and knock you right in the head. So just be careful. Make sure you have on safety glasses, and I wouldn't even criticize someone for wearing a hard hat. So, all right. What I'm going to do is unclamp it, cover all the clamping areas with blue tape so the glue won't stick to it, then glue the individual boards, and then redo this whole thing. I'm not going to film it because there's too many chances for stuff to go wrong. Once you start putting the glue on the first piece, you have to go as fast as you can put all the glue on, put it in the fixture, and then leave it sit. So the video will pick up when it's glued and just going to sit overnight to cure. Okay, here's the piece all glued up, and you can see, if you look close, the glue coming through the different laminations. And what these pieces are, it's just a Douglas fir 2x4, and I cut them into 1/4 inch long strips that are 1.5 inches wide, and there's 6 of them. So this thing measures approximately 1.5 inches. It's a little bit, they always swell when you are adding laminations like this. So that's it. And the final glue up was a breeze because I took the time to do the dry fit. And if you don't, you're gonna have so many problems. So that's one important thing about this type of work. And what this piece is the rough framing that's going to go on the wall. The window frame is going to be inside of this, and it'll all make sense as the process goes along. I'll keep showing what part we're working on and where it's going. It's been 12 hours. This is cured, and what we have is the finished part that's going in the wall. There was some minor spring back, and that's just tension that's in the boards, but I'll be able to hold it to the shape I want to hold it in the wall with screws. What this part is half of the framing. The other part will be made identical to this, and I'll just flip it over to make the right hand piece. So if this is left hand, here, the second piece that I make using this exact form will become the right hand piece. This was our original cardboard template that we had. I put it on this part and marked where I'm going to cut it. Whenever you're gluing something up like this, you always want to give yourself 1 to 3 inches of extra that you're just going to cut off, waste. Because if you try to line everything up to exact dimensions, it's never going to work.
Okay, this is what we were working towards. It's the rough opening. Now what's going to go inside of there is the window frame. All that was necessary because all the materials on the outside of the building, they're going to lay on what you see here. So going forward, we're going to build the window frame and then the window sash, and it'll all make a lot more sense.